Hegseth will be back on Capitol Hill today to meet with Republican senators. He says he is meeting with Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska today and with Senator Susan Collins of Maine tomorrow. It comes after he sat down for a second time yesterday with a key lawmaker, Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa. Last week, she was hesitant to support the former Fox News host who has been accused of sexual assault, abusing alcohol, and financial mismanagement of two nonprofits dedicated to veterans, all of which he denies. But yesterday, Senator Ernst had a different tone about Hegseth, releasing a statement praising him for his responsiveness and respect for the process and calling their conversations encouraging. Here's what she had to say about the meeting when pressed by reporters.
And I'll just refer you back to the state.
Is that a yes vote on the floor?
Change your mind?
It was a very productive meeting. I think we're just moving through the process, but he does respect that I'm taking the time to spend.
Did you talk about the allegations?
Thank you, guys.
Did you talk about the allegations as well, Senator?
Thank you, guys. I'll refer back to my statement.
Did he commit? You said support the process. It doesn't sound like you're a yes yet. Is that fair?
I am supporting the process.
Did he commit to keeping women in their current roles in the military?
He is very supportive of women in the military. It is one thing that we discussed.
So he's changed his position? He's changed his position on that?
Memo to self, John, when you're being chased by reporters on the Senate side of Capitol Hill, do not take the freight elevator.
Take the stairs. Because that elevator door, you could see the aide growing panicked about why. Trying to hit the door closed
but
button.
they kept getting in the...
I think the reporter had a hand in, I think. That's a pro tip. Pro tip.
Is that a pro tip?
On that side of the Capitol, put your hand in.
All right,
some people are good at gaggles, and other people are. Some people are like pro gagglers, and some people are
the person who's already talking now. Even though we haven't introduced him, NBC News national affairs analyst and a partner and chief political columnist at Puck, John Heilman's here, and NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent and the new host of Way Too Early.
It's all very exciting.
Ali Vitale.
So Ali, let's start with you on the Hill. We've been hearing through our sources over the past week or so that there are up to 6 Republican senators who are no votes on Hegseth. And John, I think your reporting matches the same, right?
Yes.
And right now, they are just waiting for Hegseth, in the words of REM, to feel gravity's pull, much in the same way. You like that? Much in the same way that Gates did. And you listen to Joni Ernst, again, I find it impossible, hard to believe she would ever support him given everything in his background. But yesterday she said, had a good meeting, we respect the process, we'll play this out until the end. What's your read with Joni Ernst and also those Republicans that are still hard-nosed but aren't saying anything?
So there are the Republicans that are hard-nosed that you guys are referring to, and you're right that the unofficial whip count stands at about 6. But there are plenty of Republicans, including in the president-elect's orbit, who are hoping that it's not the gravity you're talking about, but instead the gravity we talk about in Wicked, where he'll be defying gravity. And I'm sorry for the pun, but we've got a lot of time still to go on this kind of a confirmation battle. It's early in the process, and I think that's either going to work in Hegseth's favor because he'll be able to continue to have these kinds of meetings that go from productive and frank, is how I think Ernst was initially describing the tone of their conversations last week, to now she's supporting him through the process. And Lemire and I were talking about this on Way Too Early. The idea that she's had a clear tone shift is notable. The way that she's talking about in that last answer, how she didn't say anything about Hegseth committing to keep women in their current roles in the military, specifically that reporter trying to get at the idea of combat. Instead, Joni Ernst just said he's very supportive of women in the military. She said it's one thing we talked about. Clearly, he was not always in that stance. I mean, I don't think we should let anyone rewrite history, but it does give us a good sense of the way that Hegseth is trying to at least soften the image that he came into Capitol Hill with. And as much as I think we're seeing Ernst say she's supportive of the process, that's not saying I'm supportive of the man, at least not yet. It's saying I'll let him continue doing these meetings. I'm not going to be the next person, or at least the first person, to publicly tank the nomination. And I think that's important, just giving him the space, and they'll see where it ends up. But that confirmation hearing is going to be bruising and brutal.
You know, one of the complaints we had, John, of our leadership when we were in Congress is they never saw around the curve, right? They were just fighting to win the day. I'm talking about back when I was in Congress, fighting to win the day, fighting to win the news cycle, and not looking at the bigger picture here. All right, so maybe Pete Hegseth, maybe he wins a news cycle here, maybe he wins a news cycle there. But you go to the end of this process, they don't want Senate hearings, because if they get Senate hearings with Pete Hegseth, they're going to see testimony, certainly reports, NBC News reports from Fox News employees of public drunkenness recently at Fox News. They're going to see reports of alcohol abuse when he was running two vets organizations, and some pretty tawdry behavior while he was running those organizations that have all been outlined in whistleblower reports. They're going to see in black and white, they're going to see financial mismanagement of vets organizations that were very strong when he started there, that ended up basically on the verge of bankruptcy and irrelevance through his stewardship of smaller vets organizations, let alone the DOD. And yes, they're going to see testimony just like we would have seen with Gates. It may not have been the 17-year-old girl for Gates, but it may have been the other women around that with Gates. Yeah. But here we have the alleged rape. We have the police report. We have somebody who leaked that to the New York Times, and members of this woman's family, if she doesn't testify, other people testifying about what Pete Hegseth has done in the past.
The email from his mom. And
the email, of course, from his mom, which actually lines up neatly with everything we've heard before and after about Pete Hegseth. This is, again, I will just say it as I said with Gates. This is one of those old Midas commercials. You can pay me now, or you can pay me later.
Yeah.
And it is not in Donald Trump or the new administration's best interest that this is splayed all over the front pages of newspapers for a week or so while he's trying to get momentum for whatever policies he wants to push. Again, maybe they want to put up a good fight, but at the end of the day, this is just bad news for the DOD. It's bad news for America and the world. It's even bad news for the incoming president.
Well, I think that's definitely a point of view. And it's a point of view.
Thank you.
It's a point of view that I think.
It's not really a point of view so much as a projection of how this ends up.
It's not. I mean, look, I'm not taking the other side of the argument, but if you listen to people like Mike Davis, the head of the Article 3 Project, and Steve Bannon ally, and you listen to Steve Bannon, people who have a lot of influence with Donald Trump, they disagree with you. They want that fight.
And I'm just talking about the hearing.
They want the fight. They want the hearing. They want it all. They have a much more scorched earth view of this. Look, everyone around this table, I think, would agree with your point of view about this, which is like, why would the president want this? And I think if you had those two guys sitting here, they would say, we want to win this fight, and no matter how bloody it gets, the bloodier it gets in some ways, the better, because we saw what happened, and in Mike Davis's case, he analogizes all these things to the Kavanaugh experience, which is it was a brutal experience. It was really bloody. It was really terrible, and yet we ended up getting our guy in the Supreme Court. And I'm not trying to compare the two.
Well,
but he does.
I was going to say, for those that do compare the two, that's a big difference between notes that, hey, Bubba and Buster drank in the backyard and squee in 10th grade.
There was a woman who came up on Capitol Hill and testified that he had sexually assaulted her. So It was brutal for all parties there, and,
Well,
and I'm not.
Let me tell you. Let's be very clear there. She went up and testified. Nobody else did around there. Here we have one case after another case after another case. We have documented whistleblower reports. We have testimony.
I'm not trying to. Like I said already, I'm not trying to take the other side of the argument. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that the question of what is about to unfold. There is not. It's not like there's if there was unanimity of opinion in Donald Trump's world that this was a mistake and they wanted to get out of it, they could have gotten out of it already. I think there are people around Donald Trump who are very.
Donald Trump wants.
I don't know what Donald Trump
wants testimony about. This person coming up saying he raped me, and the public drunkenness and the destroying the vets organizations and Jonathan Lemire, do they like, because they're two different things. It's one thing if you say, I want to fight about the mismanagement inside the Pentagon and the bureaucracy and all the waste and how they won't listen to Donald Trump. That's one thing. And they can get plenty of people to run the DOD that can go up there and do that and be clean, just like the difference between Pam Bondi and Matt Gaetz. But you know, we're talking about two completely different things here. You can have the fight on, hey, let's clean up the Pentagon. That's one thing. The question is whether this is a deeply flawed individual at this point in time to carry that fight out on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, and there's a bit of a split in the Trump camp right now, the people that I've talked to. Absolutely, to Heilman's point. There are some who want this fight. They don't care who it is. This is about breaking it, the DOD. This is about having the public spectacle. This is about ramming their choice down the throats of the public. There are others, though, who do have that concern. First of all, also, let's remember, Donald Trump famously disdains people who drink too much. We know that cost Rudy Giuliani a cabinet post in 2016 because he would drink too much and fall asleep on Trump's plane while they were hurtling across the country. Trump has told people, I am told, that he doesn't care for that. It's more than he expected. They also, let's remember, the transition team, surprised by even that initial sexual assault allegation because of their lack of vetting, because Hegseth didn't come forward with the information right away. And there are some who believe that even if Hegseth were to go down, they could find a more palatable choice, one who has a better chance of being confirmed, who's still going to enact all those policies. Right. So right now, it is a great debate, but they are great. With Hegseth taking so much oxygen, though, they feel better about some of the others' chances slipping below the radar, Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, and the like.